Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyle Thomas. I'm joined by my colleague Alejandra Krasno from here at CSBS, and we'd like to welcome you to today's Ohio release tutorial of the state examination system. I know we probably have some new folks on. We probably have a lot of returning folks. Just as a reminder, these release tutorials are for a quick overview of the new functionality coming out in the next release. They are not intended to be a full-blown training session or a full-blown demo. We like to go quickly and touch on what's coming up in the next release. And speaking of this release, it will go live over this coming weekend. So on Sunday, we'll go in and we'll take SES down, we'll do the update, and on Monday morning when you log in, you'll see these new features in the system. A few housekeeping items and a quick overview of our agenda. So like all of our release tutorials, we minimize the background noise by keeping you, our participants, on mute. Regrettably, we'd love to have you unmuted, but with over 100 on the call, it's just not possible. But we do want your questions. So the best way to get those to us is to send the question to us through the chat, or if you prefer, you can raise your hand and use the hand raising icon in WebEx, and we'll unmute you and you can ask the question directly. There'll be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation if there's time, but don't feel like you can't ask the questions as we go. In fact, sometimes that's a little better to do. It gives us a chance to kind of regroup our thoughts, and then it gives us a moment to kind of redirect. So ask them as they come, but we should have some time at the end. And then last but not least, we are recording this. That's so we can make this recording available to anybody who's missed it. We encourage you to share it throughout your department, and you may want to reference it later, especially when you run into one of these new features and you want to take a quick refresher about how it worked. If you're wondering about how to raise your hand, if you navigate over to the panelist pane in WebEx, you'll see your name. Next to you, if you hover over your name, there'll be a little palm symbol. If you click on that palm symbol, that'll send a message to our host who will unmute you, and then you and we can chat and get your question on the table. All right, so this slide should look familiar. We start off every release tutorial with a quick rundown of what's included before we pick out some of these features to highlight in a more in-depth manner. So with the Ohio release, which I think is our 8th release of SES already, we've got 34 enhancements and new features. Almost all of these actually are from end user feedback. A good split between the complaints and the exam side. On this exam side or the supervisory side, we've got 21 for the agencies, 5 for companies. On the consumer complaint side, 8 new or improved functions on that side of things. So just a little more specifically, Alejandra is going to take us through some changes to the information request, some enhancements to the information request functions. I'm going to talk about findings. We've made some big changes to the way findings work in the system. And then reacting to some feedback, the ability to send some closure documents. As you know, SES is a tool for networked or multi-state supervision, so we're constantly working to provide features and changes in it to support or better support those one company, one exam or joint exams that you're doing with your neighboring states. We've got some changes on the multi-state front, and then I'll round it out with an overview of the new exciting features on the complaint side, doing my best to stand in for Lindsay Schmidt today. And like always, we will end it with a few honorable mentions. Just a quick call out. Our release notes are always available at stateexaminationsystem.org, and those are written in a way that we think anybody can pick them up and read them and understand what those changes are. They're kind of written for an end user, and so take advantage of those. If you're wondering what's in this release, hit that link, you'll be able to find them, and then once this recording is produced, that recording will live out in that same vicinity. So with that, I think I will hand it over to Alejandra for our first set of enhancements and new features. Ali?
Thank you, Kyle. Good afternoon, everyone. As Kyle mentioned, we have some exciting features on the information request side of SES. We added new search filters that are available to agency users that allows you to be able to type in a keyword search to go through the information requests that you're preparing for the company or that have been sent to the company. One additional enhancement that we made is we have an entirely new tab in the information request area where you can sift through and conduct a detailed view of the information request responses that you've received from company. So I am going to show you how this works and quickly go to our system to demo this for you, I am logged in to the system as an agency user in our training environment. And to take advantage and to be able to use the new keyword search function, you will go to your specific exam that you're reviewing. In this case, for me, it's this exam 1213 which is being conducted over ABC Checks and Loans Company. And if you click on the information requests, you will be able to take a look at the new keyword search feature right here. There are a couple of places where you can take advantage of this feature. You can use this feature as you're working on your specific AFR, or perhaps you want to take a look at all the information requests at the entire list and do a search for a specific information request that you're looking for in that area. So I'm going to go to the information request details section. And as you can see, for this exam, I have 37 information requests. So I really don't have time to go through all of them. So to pull up the new keyword search feature, go to the show filters section right here in this button. And here's the new text. This is the new button. This is the request text feature, where you can essentially type in any word that you'd like that you know is connected to that information request that you're working on. And so let me show you how that works. I'm just going to type in compliance management system, or CMS, because that's the information request that I would like to work on. There are that other items that you can do here. For example, pull up the area for review, or perhaps the status that hasn't changed, but this text feature is what's new. So I'm just going to focus on that for now. So I'm going to type in CMS and click search. And that's going to pull up all the information requests that you worked on, that you plan on sending to the agency, or that you may have already sent to the agency. And as you can see, for this exam, I have one. So from here, you can do the usual things that you do with the information request. You can click on the actual information request to pull it up, and maybe you want to edit or update it before you send it to the company. The other area where you can quickly pull up the search, the keyword search feature, is for the area for review summary, the AFR. So if you say you want to look at the sent to company under advertising and company, or advertising and marketing, then that will pull up again the information request specific for that AFR, and you have the show filters here on the top right, and again you have that request text available. So we've made this feature available to you in the information request tabs in a couple areas, in the AFR area, and also the entire information request details section. The other feature that we've implemented with the Ohio release is, as I mentioned, this entirely new separate tab, this IA response search tab. And here you can focus on the responses that were sent by the companies to those information requests for your specific exam. And so as you can see here at the top, you can type in keyword search again. Say there's something there, a specific word that comes in mind with in terms of the request, you can do that. Or perhaps the agency sent, the company sent a written response. You can also use that, or even a file name. If there is something very specific that comes to mind, say there's a file with a name advertising on it, and you'd like to pull up the information that the company sent, that way you can do so here. And you can drill down even up further, so you can select those company responses that had attachments, or maybe you just want to concentrate on the ones where they didn't send an attachment and they just included a written response, you can do that as well. In this show agency responses section, perhaps a company sent you something, a response, you reviewed it and you felt like it wasn't complete, so you can send back the response to the company and tell them, for example, this is out of date, or you need to expand your response further. And so you can pull up those types of responses here as well. So let's go ahead and test this. So for example, I'm going to pull up, I want to pull up a company response that has come in connection to the marketing services agreements, IR. So I'm going to type in MSAs, and I'm going to select that, yes, I want to look at attachments, and for now, I don't want to look at the agency response. So I click search, and as you can see here, all of the company responses that have that keyword search in the information request when that was sent to the company. And then again, from there I can click on the information request specifically to pull up more details. On this screen, I can view the documents that were uploaded to the system in response to the information request. And if I wanted to take a look at the agency response, then I go ahead and click on that search button right there. It's taking a little bit of time for that to pull up. Let me try again. Let me see if it comes up now. Let me see if I can do it this way. All right. It's not pulling up for me right now. I think my computer is a bit slow, but if you click on that yes, show agency response, you'll see all of the responses tied to this information request. So what that would look like is you'll see that information request noted twice, once for when the company sent you the response, and then the other one for when you sent that response back to the company because the company had to work on that response for whatever reason. And so I've clicked the reset button here, so you can see again on this new IR response search all of the information requests, and the system's going to tell you several other things. There's this icon here now that is used for when the company uses the quick response feature, which is a specific company feature that we're piloting with a set of companies. And if the company has used that feature, then the icon will appear. You can also, if you haven't sent the response back to the company, you can also preview the documents here, take a look at them, and then use the quick look complete button. If you have sent a response back to the company because they need to work on an information request, that will also be noted by a different icon. All right, Kyle, I'm assuming we don't have any
Nope, no questions.
No questions. Okay, so I am going to move on and go back to our presentation. And we are now going to move into the next area, which is the one-click reminders to companies for information requests and loan request responses. So we heard from agencies that they would like the ability to be able to send reminders to companies when there's some pending tasks that the company has to do, like responding to an information request or a loan request. And so with the Ohio release, we've implemented this new feature where companies can very easily send agencies can send very easily a reminder to the companies. There's a few things here to keep in mind. Only the EICs have the ability to send the reminder and to really use this feature and to even see if there is a reminder history, to be able to review that history of other reminders that may have been sent to the company. The action is available only when there are information requests in the sent to company status. So to show you this, this information is going to be again available in the information requests tab. So you click on that tab. If there are any information requests that have been sent to the company, then the new feature will appear on your screen if you as the EIC on the bottom left-hand corner. And so you have the I've highlighted here where you'll be able to see the new feature. And again, you have the ability to send a reminder to the company. When you send the reminder, when you click on that button, then the system's going, another screen is going to pull up and the system's going to ask you whether you really do want to send the information to the company. When you send the information to the company, the reminder, all of the company participants for that specific exam are going to receive that that reminder via email. And also, if you already sent previous reminders, you'll be able to see the reminder history here, and that will show you who sent the reminder and when the reminder was sent. So this functionality is available on the information request tabs, but also for loan requests. And so, as you can see on the screen, for loan requests, it's very similar than for information requests. If there are loan requests that have been sent to the company, you'll be able to see those again down here in those. You'll have the feature available down here in this section and be able to send reminders to the company and also see the reminder history. And here's a screenshot of what that notification looks like when the company gets the email. As I mentioned, all the company participants are going to get that email, and you'll be able to they'll be able to get that reminder where it tells you that there are pending information requests that you need to fulfill for that specific exam. All right, so the last thing that I want to mention with in terms of the Ohio release features is that we've made an enhancement for companies so that now as they're going through enrollment, they'll be reminded before they finalize that enrollment that they have open tasks, meaning there are additional things that they need to do other than just enrolling in SES as a new company. And the reason why we implemented this is because, as you know, we've made several new enhancements for companies to help them with the enrollment process and enhance that experience for them, including a wizard which was implemented in a previous recent release. The issue was that once the company finalized enrollment, even though they were on the homepage, they weren't necessarily aware that there were other items that they needed to do, primarily assign contacts for their company for that specific exam or for that specific complaint that was in the system. And so with this new enhancement, right before they finalize enrollment, they're going to get this screen that you can see on this slide, where the system is going to tell them that they have outstanding tasks and that they need to assign company contacts for those tasks to be completed, and that they need to complete these tasks on the home page. So on this screen, they really can't do much other than review the information, but it's very helpful information because it's a reminder to them that there's additional things that they need to do after finishing enrollment, which is completing these tasks. And it shows them specifically which tasks they need to work on and the number of tasks. In this specific case, there is one task pending for supervisor activities and 5 for complaints. And once they finish that enrollment, then they'll be again landed in that homepage and be able to work on those tasks. All right, So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle so he can walk us through the rest of the enhancements.
Hey, Allie, you have a question from the chat. So if
Sure.
there are multiple IRs or loan requests overdue, will the system send multiple reminders or just one?
It's just one reminder. I think that's a great question, and it's worth noting that you can't send one specific or isolated reminder to a company for a specific information request. That the company is going to receive one email for, say, if they have 6 pending information requests or loan requests, they'll get one email saying you have pending loan requests or information requests. So please go to the system to work on those.
Great. Well, thank you, Allie. And give me a minute to share my screen here. And I will take over from here. So you're stuck with me for the rest of the demo. And I've got quite a host of different features to cover today. So we're just going to kind of go item by item. So the first is just to introduce you to our first concept here. We have a slide showing all the changes we made to the findings concept. And there's really three categories of changes happening around findings. All of these came from user feedback. The first is we now give you the ability to classify findings by agency on multi-state exams. So the feedback we got was, look, I'm on a multi-state exam, and sometimes the findings I cite apply to the whole exam and everybody equally, and sometimes they only apply to certain states in that exam, or maybe just my state. And we didn't have that ability before, and now we do. So we'll show that. You now have the ability to, and very importantly, associate a finding to a specific loan request. So when you're working a loan file through the system and you have a finding on it, and you quickly add it through the quick add findings option, it'll be associated. In addition, you can go back in after the fact and add findings directly to, or you can add loan requests to findings after the fact. So if you have a finding on truth in lending violations, and you find another loan file later with that same finding, you can go and up the count and associate multiple findings, or excuse me, multiple loan requests to a finding. And last but not least, coming from our friends on the money service business side of things, really needed the ability to delete findings. I think everybody actually needed this, but we now give you the ability, if a finding is truly entered by mistake or you want it off the record, you can remove that finding. So I'm going to cover another slide just so I kind of don't hop around too much. I'm going to demo all these things together, so kind of keep these in your memory as we're going through the system. So unrelated to findings, we also had feedback. I think this came in first from the state of Hawaii, asking for the ability to send closure documents to companies when you send that final closure notification through the system. So now staff directors and staff users who are closing and locking a supervisory activity can add comments, as you see in that little screenshot. You can add documents, and you can make some decisions around suspending or not suspending document retention. Those had been in place before. And then obviously when the company gets this notification, they have then the ability to log in and view those documents as part of this record. So we'll go ahead and show those things. And the last concept I'm going to show is adding a team lead concept to multi-state exams. So we got this feedback, again, from the multi-state side saying, especially on those big exams, you needed the ability for each agency to say, this person is my leader for my agency. And we'll have that with this release. The way it works, which I'll show you in the demo if we have time, is when your agency is requesting to participate in a particular exam with another agency, as your staff user or staff director is deciding who's going to be the participants on that exam, they can select one of those individuals to be the team lead, and then that individual will carry a little green icon that you can see there to designate their team leadership role. So with that, I'm going to hop into the system and show you first the findings on a multi-state exam. So I'm going to log into our SES environment as an examiner from the state of Pennsylvania. And go way back to an old exam that I've got set up for this purpose. And again, remember the goal here is I'm trying to add findings to a multi-state exam. So findings, as you know, are in the examination tab. And you can see I've got a number of findings here. Got 3 findings in the management and board category. And finding number 95, forgive me for checking my notes, but I got lots of different things going on here. Just wanted to point out that this finding is currently sitting with all the agencies on this supervisory activity. So again, this is a multi-state exam between my agency, Pennsylvania, and the Vermont agency, and it's currently sitting at the SA level. So that just shows that findings now have kind of 2 options for designations. And if you update the finding, you can change it to agency specific. This same concept applies when you're adding a finding. So when you're adding a finding, you'll see this same screen here on a multi-state exam. And in this case, I'd already entered this finding just to save time, but you can obviously see how this would apply when you're adding a new one. If you click the agency specific radio button, then there's the agencies you can choose to attribute this finding to, and you can select whichever ones it does apply to, if not all of them. So I'm going to, in this case, select Pennsylvania and Nebraska as my joint agencies, and then you can save those attributes onto that finding. So in that regard, findings can now be much more finely tuned and applied to the whole supervisory activity or specific agencies. Obviously, this would apply on findings that are unique to state code or unique to a state regulation, and that only really need to be cited based on the findings of the exam team within the bigger exam. All right, so I'm going to stay logged in as the Pennsylvania examiner and show the other change we made to findings. So on findings now, you have the ability to associate them to loan requests. So I'd set up an exam to help with this. Bear Mortgage here is the exam for this piece of the demo. Where this exam is at is I'm the EIC. I've sent the information request over. I've gotten one of their requests was their entire loan download. I analyzed that loan download and I selected some loan files for review, and I transmitted those loan files over to the company. You can see I sent 57 over. I've got 20 that I'm still working on and preparing to send. The company's given me 1 response back, and I've got 1 of those loan requests that me or my exam team has completely reviewed. And so what I'd like to just show here is that when you are reviewing a loan request, and I'm going to review loan request number 1347, the borrower's name is Brittany Herbert, you can put these findings on as you're working the loan request. So naturally, and this should look familiar to you if you're a consumer finance or a mortgage examiner, you've probably worked with this function. You click on this work loan request, and you've got the traditional space here. You enter your comments if you have any. We removed the radio button about whether or not there was a finding because we've added that now to the quick add area. And if you click open this quick add area, you'll see, nope, not on this one. Sorry, this one's not a multi-state exam, but I was going to point out the multi-state option here, but this is not a multi-state exam, so we don't get that option on this one. But you just fill out the findings as you typically would. I'm just going to say this is a RESPA violation and move along accordingly. You can add in federal or state if it's a federal or state violation, section numbers, title numbers, and then because you're quick adding this finding while you're working this loan, remember we're working the loan for Brittany Herbert is the borrower name, Alexandria, Virginia. Because we are adding this finding directly from this loan page, this finding will automatically be attributed to Brittany Herbert. So that tie is automatic. Now, that's a quick, oops, forgot one category here. That's a quick, easy way to get a finding on a loan, but you may have a situation where you cite a finding and then later need to up the count and complete and attribute a loan file back. I really messed this page up. You may need to up a finding count and add other loans to it. So I'll show you how to do that here. So I just completed that other loan for review, or that other loan review. And now I'm going to navigate over to the examination tab. And on this tab, what we've got are, our typical review summary, procedures tab, and our findings tab. I find the quickest way to hop over to findings is just click on these numbers in the grid. And I'm going to say this number here, this regulatory compliance violation, oops, this one I think, I'm going to attribute additional loan files to this finding. So let me kind of explain what we're looking at here. This is the finding page, right? This is where I went into the system, or one of my examiners went into the system and said, look, we've got a regulatory compliance finding. It's section 309, part 354. The financial statements were not verified. Let's just pretend that was a finding in our state. And it's associated to borrower number 1345, Keith Gomez. So now let's say I found this finding again on another file. You click on this Manage Association for this finding, and you could add additional loan requests here. So in this loan request, I can add, well, let's see. Now I don't remember Brittany's number. Well, don't worry. You've got this loan request button. Hopefully you saw that on the right-hand side. If you don't remember the different loan requests that you might need to pull forward, you can click that button. You can come back to your loan summary, and you can quickly grab the loan number request that you would want to add to that finding. So that, in that case, it's 1347 for Brittany Herbert, the one I was just working, and we'll type in 1347, and you'll see the system will populate Brittany Herbert, confirming the association. Similarly, you probably see this on the screen, but if you're curious, if the Keith Gomez file somehow had miraculously solved this issue and you no longer wanted to cite this finding under Keith Gomez, you could remove that association. One thing I will remind you to do on this is that there is currently not an automated check on the numbers of associated loans and the numbers of times that finding was found. So you saw how we just associated Brittany Herbert's loan to this finding because we found this issue again. Well, this count is not automatically updated. We may be able to do an enhancement to do that, but for now, you'll need to go and update the finding and just up the count to 2 or 3 or whatever number of loans that you've cited this finding on. So that is not critical. There will be nothing wrong if that doesn't happen, but I think it's just a good way to make sure you're ticking and tying. The number of times you find a finding is probably going to be reflected on the number of borrower files you cite that finding against, but it may not be a perfect one-to-one relationship, which is why we didn't hard code that relationship in as now. All right, so the last thing I'd like to show is how to delete a finding. I'm going to log in here, stay logged into this exam, and just open the finding that we cited under the audit category. You can see this finding was cited as an observation under the management, and pretty straightforward. We've got this delete finding button. Quick confirmation that you do in fact want to delete it. A third time, just because I know there maybe it seems like a lot of clicks here, but this cannot be undone. And so if you had a lot of work and attachments and everything else associated with that, we don't want you to delete it by accident. And there, now we've got no findings tallied up in the audit category. So that's a quick rundown of that. Give me a second to review our chats. And one question was, is there, yeah.
You got it.
I do. Thanks, Shannon. One question we got was, is there an audit capability of the deletion? Yes, there is. I believe there would be a way, if you needed an audit of that, just send us a request and we could probably get you that auditability. We could probably get you that back-end report showing when it was deleted and who. And got some kudos from my sidekick Kat here, so thank you for that. All right. The next thing I want to demo is sending those closure documents over to the company. So you remember from my slides, when I was on the slides, one of the feedback items we got was sometimes when you're closing out an exam, you need to be able to pull together some documents. You may need to send them a final letter of appreciation or a final letter of something signaling that this exam is closed out and that's the final word. So we do now have that ability. You'll start to see that on Monday. And to demo this, I'm going to stay logged in as our Pennsylvania examiner. Excuse me, I'm going to switch out to a different role, Pennsylvania staff user, because only staff users and staff directors have the ability to send out closure documents. So logging in as our Pennsylvania staff user, I've been working on an exam 1770 and preparing some closure documents for an exam on money service business exam on multuary money management. And so where this exam is at is it's in this final stage. As I was preparing for today's demo, the report of exam has been approved. We've sent that report over to the company. The company has actually reviewed the report and sent a response back. And maybe they sent back a response fixing some problems that we cited, or maybe they responded to some MRAs, whatever the case may be. And now we are ready to actually close out this exam record because all of our work here is done and we don't want any more back and forth with the company. And in my state, I happen to need to send with our final closure letter some final materials with that closure letter. So previously, we did not have that ability, but we do now. So you click on the close and lock button after all the other steps in this exam have been taken, and you've got some choices to make. You can choose to notify the company or not about this closure. So if you want to just silently close it and not send them anything, that's fine, you can, but if you intend to send documents, you do need to leave that notification on. You have a record retention option here. You can pause record retention if that's important. Not really the topic for today. You can leave some comments. And then most importantly, decide what kind of document you're going to send them. So we'll just go ahead and document here. And let's say this is our closure document for our state agency, which just kind of affirms and finalizes everything. One last confirmation in the system just to make sure, because this is kind of the point of no return. After you pass this, you cannot go back. And the company will have access to this document through their side of the system, as you're going to see in a moment. And I'm going to say close and lock. So again, that's multuary money management. And now I'm going to switch gears entirely, and I'm going to go back in as the company. And show you where the company finds these exam documents. So again, I'm logging in as the company. The person that I'm logging in as is Michael Smith, who happened to be the lead, company lead on this exam. And maybe I'm wrong. Well, it must have messed up a number. But what will normally happen is from the home screen on his side of the system or her side of the system, you would see the different SAIDs that they have open or that have been recently closed, and the ability to click into that area, and then, oh, there it is. Obviously, because it's a closed exam, I should have noticed this. I was looking for it here on the home page. I was silly. I just closed it on the agency side. So of course, it doesn't show up on the home page anymore because these are all open exams. If I go over to supervisory activities, I've got a long list of them. That's where I find the one I just closed. You hit that number, and now there's a new tab on the company side, closure materials. And they can view the document, they can preview that document, download it, save it, whatever they need to. This document will be here for the company until this record is expunged per the record retention requirements. So just keep that in mind, that this is a fairly long-lived document in the system, and they will continue to have access to it for as long as they have access to the system, or until the record retention clock stops ticking on that particular document, which we will finalize that policy soon, but is likely and is currently 10 years. All right, so the last thing I'm going to demo, and I think we talked about it, is on the multi-state front, we had the ability, or we needed the ability to designate what's called a team lead. So somebody on the multi-state exam who's working for a particular agency who has lots of other participants working with them from their same agency is going to serve in that leader capacity. And so to demonstrate this, I think it's easiest to kind of see this from the point where your agency is making a request to join another agency's exam. So I'm going to hop over. Again, I know I'm doing a lot of gear switches here, but I'm going to hop over as a Nebraska user. And I'm going to make a request to join a Pennsylvania exam. And while I'm getting logged in, I'll do a quick check of the chat. We did get a question around the deletion abilities around findings. I do not know off the top of my head if these changes are retroactive and you have the ability to go in and delete old findings. I believe you will be able to, because in the training environment that I'm demoing in now, a lot of these exams were set up in the past and it looks like that delete button is there. But I will get confirmation of that maybe as this demo is going on and provide an answer hopefully in the Q&A session. So if any member of our development team is listening, or our testing team is listening and happens to know the answer, just chat that answer either in the chat or shoot me a message, and I'll relay that verbally for the benefit of everybody on the call. All right, so I'm back in as a regulator, and I'm in as a Nebraska staff director. And again, what I'm going to show you now is how to request and designate a team lead on another agency's exam. So I'm going to look for a Pennsylvania exam just because I happen to have the Pennsylvania login handy. So I'm going to request to become a participant of their Bear Mortgage exam happening in March, a little behind schedule here. And when I request to join this, which would effectively create or make this a multi-state exam, I can start typing my users here. And when I select a role for them, which I have to do, I then have this ability to designate them as a team lead. So it's just a simple checkbox that you'll see here. And we have a little tooltip. This designation does not come with any specific permissions. So the team lead is simply a designation that others on the team can be aware of. And then within your team, you'll need to set up rules of the road as far as what you want that team lead to do and what you don't want them to do. We may be able to expand this capability to have them serve one day as kind of a mini EIC, but for now, we're just introducing this concept as a team lead to see how this gets used and to kind of what capacity this gets employed. So you can continue adding other staff users, or excuse me, other examiners here. If you wanted to have 2 team leads, you could. I don't think there's any restrictions on that. And then when that request goes over to the state of Pennsylvania, they will in fact see who is who's been part of that request and if you've designated anybody as a team lead. Let's hop over as a Pennsylvania staff user and work on granting this permission. And it may take a minute for that to come over, but that's okay because we've already got another exam set up. When I was preparing for the demo, I did this exact same exercise on another exam called 100% Made in Brazil. And if you or any other participant on the team navigates over to the Participants tab, you see the different participants and a green icon next to their name indicating that they are the team lead. So when your exam team comes to the Participants tab and needs to find out who's in charge of things for their particular agency, they can come here, look for that green icon. It's got some handy hover text, and can be identified in that manner. All right, so that kind of does it for the supervisory activity side of things. I'm going to switch gears in just a minute and hop over on the complaint side. I'll do a quick scan of our questions here. We had a question, can the team lead be applied for current exams? Yes, I believe that is possible. If we have time at the end, I'll do my best to demo that and show how the team lead can be applied to current exams, obviously starting Monday. But just in the interest of time, because I want to give plenty of time to these new complaints features, I am going to switch gears and head over there. So real quick on the complaint side, the first thing that we're excited to debut with the Ohio release is, at long last, you can now reopen a closed complaint. And we got this feedback because sometimes a complaint will be closed. You think you're done, and then that consumer will call back or write back in. And you just need to, rather than start a brand new complaint for that consumer for this exact same issue, you may just need to append or edit or adjust the existing complaint that you just closed. And so we do limit this to 1 year. And some other quick facts about this, you have full interaction or full interactability with that complaint record once it's been reopened. It does not reactivate or resend, if you will, previously sent information requests that maybe had already been sent and received. So it doesn't like redo or resend any of that stuff. And it does not notify the company unless you send new information requests to them. So if you had already worked this out with the company, you had closed the complaint, and then you needed to reopen it just to add in a few additional pieces of information that the consumer provided, or maybe report that it happened again, you could add that information, and as long as you don't send a new information request, the company will not know that you've reopened this. Reopened complaints, though, are not currently added in the My Agency complaint reports. So those reports currently exclude that just because they carry a different status. We're working on the reporting in general on this, and we'll take feedback on how those should or should not be included. And then you'll always be able to look at the closure and reopening and reclosing information through the audit capabilities on the individual complaint. So the thing to remember here is that really you have 1 year to do this. After a complaint has been closed for that first year, you no longer have the ability to reopen it. I'm going to stay in the slide deck, give you a few other previews of what I'm going to demo, just so when we get there, we're not hopping back and forth. The other is updating the subject of complaints. So we're excited to provide this in the Ohio release, which is if you accidentally associate a complaint to the wrong entity or the wrong company, you can go back in and make that change. Happens really easily with commonly named companies. Very easy to pick the wrong one. You can do this so long as an information request has not been sent, and that's very important. That is the limiter there. So once you've sent that information request and that company has already picked that up, obviously then it's too late to change that subject. So keep that in mind. And just a couple other significant but fairly easy to understand if we can't get to them in the demo environment. Search by consumer name. So you now have a pretty, now that we have a large number of complaints in the system and you're looking for a complaint based on a consumer's name, because that's kind of in your head how you think of it, you have the ability to search by their name, not just the company. And then a more robust company search function in areas that you'd seen it from the non-NMLS entity side of things. So those are the three things I'm going to demo real quick. Hop back over to our system. And I'm going to log in as an examiner from Nebraska, because they have the complaints permission side of things. And once I'm logged in, I'm going to look for a complaint number 461 on Oscorp Industry that, let's just pretend for whatever reason that a consumer just called in to me and said, you know what, I need to reopen this complaint. So you can see complaint number 461 on Oscorp Industries is in the closed status. It was closed just a couple days ago. So if I click open that complaint record ID, you can see it's been closed, document retention has been applied, and it's a pretty quick process to reopen it, at least from your perspective. The system's doing a lot of things in the back end when you reopen it, hence this message here. This message, I think, is just kind of worth underscoring. It's going to put this complaint into a reopen status, and then you can take action on this complaint again as the agency user. But in order to do this, the system has to kind of reach in and pull a lot of things forward that is kind of permanently filed away. And so it will take a few minutes to do this on the system side of things. So you won't be able to start jumping in and interacting with, say, the documents immediately. So from a demo perspective, we'll stop there, hit that reopen complaint, and then you can begin interacting with this as you normally would, and add documents, remove documents, update research and communication as you would need to, and eventually reclose that complaint. So again, that just, if you're wondering, it takes 30 seconds, maybe a minute or two, just to kind of reach in and kind of reestablish and reset this record. So the next thing I'd like to do is demonstrate how to update the contact, the subject of a complaint. So for this, I'm going to stay logged in as Eric Chen, and I'm going to look for a complaint that I had filed a while ago on First Nationwide Mortgage Corporation. So again, the use case here is that we had started a complaint, we had been working on it, and notice how it has not been sent to the company yet. That's very important because in order to update the subject of the complaint, it cannot have been sent to the company. In this case, as I was working on this one, I realized, oh shoot, I attached it to First Nationwide Mortgage Corp, but I needed to do it to a different entity. So you can update the subject in this action button here. And I just picked the wrong company, so what I'll do is search for the company name, and I looked at this before we did this, just to make sure I had an accurate number. You can search by SES ID or their NMLS ID. Again, you can apply it to a branch, individual, or an NMLS, a non-NMLS entity, whatever the case may be. I think most of the time it'll probably be from one company to another, but you can switch categories. Hit the search button, and it pulls open the company First Nationwide Lending, which you can see how I may have made that mistake. I put it on First Nationwide Mortgage Corporation, but I needed to put it on First Nationwide Lending Incorporated. So I'll go ahead and click Update Complaint Subject, quick confirmation message, and now this complaint is situated under First Nationwide Lending. So pretty straightforward. I think a fairly common use case, actually, given the number of companies out there that have very, very common names. In fact, from state to state, there may be some companies that carry identical names. So it's easy to get a complaint filed under the wrong company name. What I will say is, again, it's just important to make sure that you do this change before you send the information request over to the company, because once the information requests have been sent, the company then becomes aware of the complaint. And if it's under the wrong company, you would have inadvertently made the wrong company aware of a different person's complaint. So just a good practice to get into before transmitting those IRs to the company. Make good ensure that it's the right one. All right, on the Complaints tab, a couple last minute items here before we jump over to the honorable mentions. On the Complaints tab, we do have additional search capabilities, and I think they're worth highlighting. Like I mentioned, we have a good number of complaints now in the production system. And I know many of you who work with complaints probably think of each complaint not necessarily with the company, but maybe with the consumer's name. And so if it's easier for you to find that complaint that you were working on based on a consumer name, you can type in their first name, hit search. In this case, I typed in John because I knew the consumer's first name was John, and I see quickly complaint number 18 from way back when was the complaint that I've been working on for a borrower or a consumer named John. So again, that functionality or that searchability is from the Complaints tab, the main screen where you have those preset filters. And then to get the consumer search or the complainant search, you hit that filter key, opens up all those filters, and then you can type in their first or the last name and hit search. And I think that is everything that we had. Well, I guess one more quick thing here. On the company search tab, when you're on the complaint side, you asked us to provide that robust searchability like what we have on the non-NMLS entity side. And so now you have the ability to go through, if you're looking for a company, kind of piece by piece, person, name, location, person, website, phone number, and so on and so forth. So you can just type those characters in and work your way through those different criteria to try to find the correct company. Ties into my first comment, which is hopefully these complaints are getting filed on the right companies. All right, we'll hop back to the PowerPoint and just do a quick rundown of these honorable mentions because I think there's some goodies in here that are worth pointing out. So on the honorable mention side, we'll get to any questions. On the complaint side, we will now present a warning message to users on the agency side when you're attempting to tag a discussion board topic to an agency that's not in the system yet, or an agency that doesn't have complaints users. That way you can't just tag it out there to a company or, excuse me, an agency that isn't going to receive it. We've done some minor design updates to make it more straightforward for companies to know that they need to actually send an IR response back, because we were hearing reports of those getting forgotten about. And then we've upped the description character limit on the complaint side to 4,000. On the supervisory or the exam and investigation side, we now give you the ability to update the location of SA from offsite to onsite, or offsite to onsite, or whatever the inverse of that is. You can do that through the details tab. So if you click on update details as the EIC or staff user, staff director, you can make that change of location there. Canceled SAs, now cancel the loan request. That seems pretty intuitive, but it was something that wasn't happening. So loan request could have been sitting out in the system after an SA was canceled, even if a company couldn't have gotten to them. And then from our friends in the state of Maryland, pointed out that when they're accepting or rejecting requests to join or access their exams, they have now created some standard language to send as part of that acceptance or that rejection. And that language that they created in Maryland was just a little longer than 4,000 characters, or just a little longer than 1,500 characters, which was the previous limit. So we bumped up the character limit to that box to allow you to fit your stock language in there. And then we made the home pages for staff users and staff directors a little more actionable by providing really those access and join request type information that you can take action on right from the home page. On the company side, we renamed a couple of the options when they're working their information requests. They had previously, the button was labeled send for review. So when they were sending a response back, and now it says send to company lead or POC. That way they know who it's going to. It just helps make it a little more personal, and I think it helps the companies kind of understand what's happening to that information request as it's working its way through the workflow. And then the last thing is, throughout the system, when you're adding new users and you're assigning them roles in the system, we've added some instructional text on just what those roles do. And I think this was a great suggestion. I forget where it came from, but that instructional text just gives you, as the account administrator, or on the company side, if you're the AA, a little clue into what kinds of permissions you're about to establish or send over to that user. So I mentioned, I think we're kind of getting close to the top of the hour here. I'd like to take just a second to do some question scanning. We got a question about when joining an exam, how does one determine what they'll be working on? And what I would say to that is an exam by exam team decision. So when your agency is requesting to join another agency's exam, you're going to need to have a conversation with that agency, especially if that exam is kind of underway already. So SES really can't take care of that for you, right? You'll need to have that conversation with the agency, but then once you've established that, you can put those plans in the exam plan for that exam. So the EIC can actually go in and say, based on my conversations I've had with this other state, here's what my team's going to work on, and put that in the exam plan. Here's what their team's going to work on, and put that in the exam plan. So while SES can't dictate that for you, you can then use SES to articulate to the full team what is part of that plan. And we got a couple other questions in here, but I think some of these might be best if I just kind of follow up one-on-one. So I will take that as an action item. We did get a question about how long can findings be deleted, or for which findings, at what point does the ability to delete findings go away? And the answer to that is, as long as the exam or investigation is not yet closed, findings can be, you can go in and delete those findings. So up until the point that that record is closed and locked is your window there. The last thing I'll say before we adjourn for today is always the release notes, see at the link there, stateexaminationsystem.org under system releases. This recording will also be found there. And then a reminder, we've got a really great 3-part series coming up this summer, or this month actually, around consumer complaints. And we're using this series to educate your agencies on what's involved in our consumer complaint system, how it works. So our first one will be just the basics. The next one will be some of the more advanced features. And the third one is going to be a glimpse of what's to come. And we've got some exciting features coming on the consumer complaint side that we're really proud to show off on that third one. So the registration link we had just dropped in the chat. And so we encourage anyone with interest of that to go ahead and register. Registration is free, and you can attend one or all 3. And of course, we hope to see you at all of them. So with that, let me just say thank you very much for your time and attention today. Really appreciate these. I know they move very fast, but we hope they're valuable. And if we can find ways to improve these tutorials for you, just use the survey at the end to give us that feedback, because we look at it all and take it very seriously. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of your afternoon.